final number came out to just a click over $65,000 in the first year. If you add in towing, it's easily over. All right, everybody, welcome back to Savage Garage. My name is Jimbo, and we are in Blake's kitchen. As of filming this right now, this is just about the end of January. I totaled up how much I have spent, and in about 4 days, it will be the 1-year anniversary of me owning my Murcielago. And to say the least, I have spent a lot of money on maintaining it, but I wanted to break it down and show you guys and kind of go through the history of this car. Because to you guys, and maybe some of you guys have been watching, it seems like every single time you see the car in videos, it's broken. And rightfully so. I mean, it has been broken on more occasions than I'd like to admit, but that's just the reality of it. So we're gonna go through real quick the entire history of my car, break down all of the times it has broken down right here, and go from essentially the first time I broke it down and go through the entire chronology and history of it. So let's go back to the very beginning. February 4th, 2020, I took delivery of my 2004 Yellow Lamborghini Murcielago. Oh, hi. Look at that thing.
Which side of the wheels were they like?
It's Big Bird. It was the one Jimbo piece. Oh my gosh, it's exactly.
There it is, brother.
We call him Big Bird.
Now we're gonna go to the first time it ever broke down, which unfortunately wasn't that long afterwards. And ironically, it was on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2020.
Well, it had to be you.
Am I not taking a picture of it?
Hey, am I not taking a picture of you?
Yeah.
Wait for it!
I just remembered that was the first day I ever filmed with you guys, and it broke.
Yeah, that's a good point. That was the first time. Okay.
Wait, let me. There we go.
There.
Now we're even. No.
So this is Blake. Blake we recently brought on to shoot video, and this video is actually the first time you shot with us. So this was your first impression of Savage Garage. Now, what was going through your head when the first time you saw all this happen?
Well, I was with Randy at the dealership,
Mhm.
and then we get a call that your car broke because you had missed the exit when we had all gone, and then we were like, oh, he'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember getting in the R34 and then driving down the wrong side of traffic
Yes.
to get to you.
That's a good point.
And
I remember.
Oh, there he is. He's in the turn lane.
And everybody followed too, which was
Yeah.
the best thing. I have just realized my Murci has never once made it to an event with street speed at it. Like something that where Mike and I were meeting. No. One time. It was his Toys for Tots thing, but I wasn't the one who drove it there. Jesse was.
And then you broke it as you were
And then I
leaving.
broke it. So the last time you guys saw this car on the channel, unfortunately it ended up where a lot of people predicted it would, which is on the back of a tow truck. Now, when that accident happened, that was the first time that the car had any issue at all. That was 14 days into ownership, as I said, on Valentine's Day, of all things. And what we found out with that was there were 2 screws in the F1 pump actuator that backed themselves out, which is it's not a normal thing to happen.
Because the actuator bleed screws had loosened up. So they weren't torqued properly. So as fluid pressure was being diverted to the actuator, it was basically returning without moving the actuator. Didn't have sufficient pressure. So we tightened them up. We did a self-learn. It's passed the self-learn every time. We've run it 3 times. Should be good to go.
So essentially we pulled the drivetrain for 3 loose screws.
Basically.
Now what you guys saw on video was the screws had backed themselves out once, we fixed it, took delivery of it again at Loudoun County Exotics, Greg took care of it, all was well. What you didn't see was the fact that this issue with backing the screws out, it happened a total of 4 times. the next time that this car broke down, Randy, Hunter, and I were all driving to meet Street Speed 717, ironically again, but this time we were meeting him in Pennsylvania. And then the third time was when we were driving with the Koenigsegg, which I'll put that clip up here now just so you can see it. Greg finally told me, and unfortunately he told me after it happened the first time, he said, if this doesn't fix the problem, then you're probably gonna need to look for a transmission. Because there was a good chance that there was something internally wrong with the trans, something got damaged, and taking apart a transmission is very time consuming and very expensive. So go online, I ended up buying one for about 5,500 bucks, and in theory, it should have been fine. 1,200 miles, no issues at all, and we put it in the car, and it did the single most infuriating and time-wasting thing that it could possibly do. When this trans came in and he bolted it to the engine, and Greg and his team did all the self-learned things that you have to do when you put together the engine and trans and make sure it works right. If it passes that, then it should work in the car. Well, it passed that. When you put it in the car didn't go past first gear. So now I've got two transmissions that don't work at all. And the person who sold me that transmission, which obviously they didn't want to take a refund on it. So now I've got two essentially transmission coffee table things and I have no idea what to do. Greg and his team, brilliant as they are, they go, hold on a second. Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at these transmissions. And he's looking at them and he finally figures out that I had bent a shift fork. Now the question, how did I bend a shift fork? Well, the one thing that we could maybe cater this to, when I got the car, Greg took a look at it, and he found out that every single fluid in this car was low. So the only thing we can think of is the transmission, as time had gone on, due to lack of maintenance, the parts had worn and the shift fork got bent, and that's how we were where we were. So he ended up ordering the part to fix the shift fork. It was like 1,500 bucks, if I remember right, to get everything, all the bearings and just pieces to get it right. And we reassembled my transmission, put it in the car, and all was well for a while.
They changed the
Wait a minute, what?
Jimbo.
Wait, my car doesn't, what did you do? Wait, this doesn't make sense, hold on.
7/10/20 was the day that we shot me taking delivery of the Murcielago in Florida, which Randy surprised me with, God bless him. I mean, that was an awesome feeling because I had no idea when my car was getting down and getting fixed. I knew I was gonna ship it down, and to find out just off the cuff, by the way, your car is here. It was the highlight of my week, truth be told, the highlight of my month. Now we move on to the next time it broke, which was that directly afterwards? No. Once it made it down to Miami, everything was great for a little while anyway. We went on the Mansion Rally, which was the cool, fun thing. The Mansion Rally was the only time it made it to where we were going and back and didn't break. So it did at one point make it to where it needed to be. So that might be the only, I'm going through this, that might be the only event it's done that for. Holy shit, it only made it 8 days. Sad. I'm laughing about it, but this is really sad. I mean, Ed really titled that video well. I have possibly the single most unreliable Murcielago on the planet. I mean, I love her though. I love my banana. Yes. Don't take that out of context, internet. So now we fast forward about a week later. This is after Mansion Rally. Everything was going well. However, I pulled into my condo complex and I noticed that the battery light was flickering. And I noticed the voltage was a little bit low and it didn't look right. I called up Greg and he said, your alternator is probably dying and it probably won't be more than 10 or 15 miles before it leaves you on the side of the road. So I said, okay, it's going on a tow truck. So the next morning I had it picked up by professional towing and they towed it to We Are Curated. And literally over the weekend, they put a new alternator in that car. Sunday, the car was ready to go, and I drove it on, it was some little weekend rally we did. I don't remember what it was, Blake. But it made it through it fine. And then precisely, oh, you know what it was? It was when we raced Brooks's Evo. That's what it was. When we raced Brooks' Evo and it lost horribly, which we all knew was going to happen, but we just figured, hell, why not? Brooks had gotten another, like the Huracan Evo had just come out, and he had taken delivery of it. There we go. And now we go to August 6th, 2020.
Hey, bud, what happened?
Car overheated. It blew a coolant line.
Jimbo, oh my God, I can smell it.
So that day it was incredibly hot. It was well over 100 degrees outside. I just got back from running some errands. And as I was making a U-turn to get to my apartment complex at the time, all of a sudden I lost power steering. Right before pulling into it where I would park, I go to put my front lift up, and then I didn't have a front lift. And then the light went off in my head, which was the power steering fluid is the same fluid that puts the front lift up. And then I looked at my temp gauge, and I noticed it was creeping, going closer and closer and closer and closer to red. It was just about to touch the red, and I went, oh no. And once I turned that key off, that was the last time that car ever started on that motor. Because at that point, I had officially caused catastrophic damage to the crankshaft, and that motor and trans was coming out yet again.
Yeah, only half the belt's on. In fact, part of the belt's in here. You can see it. It just snapped the belt. So hopefully that's all. That's the only issue. I don't know.
All the way down in here is the end of basically the snout of the end of the crankshaft.
Mm-hmm. I'll put a light on that for Blake here. Make life a little easier.
And the crank pulley goes over the crank, and a bolt holds it in place. And that pulley drives the serpentine belt, which operates the alternator, the AC compressor, the power steering pump, and more importantly, the water pump.
Yes.
So that is what came apart and basically ate itself to pieces.
Okay.
Now, there were two things you could do for this. One, you could re-weld the end of the crankshaft so you could put the idler pulley back on. You could do that, but unfortunately, and I listen to Greg and trust him on his words of wisdom here, there was not a very high chance that motor would run smoothly and run the right way and it would last if you did that. The other one, get another motor. Thinking about it and looking online, I ended up finding, of all things, a Murcielago engine. I got one for 13 grand. It had 25,000 miles, and unfortunately, when the motor showed up to Loudoun County, just my luck, there was a crack in the block. And let me tell you, that was not a very good conversation I had with the seller of it, but believe it or not, he actually ended up taking a return on the motor. And I'm saying this like it happened quickly, it didn't. About $27,500 later, and there was a motor that had been sent to Loudoun County Exotics, and it went in my Murcielago.
So where'd you get this motor from? How many motors do you have now?
More than I care to admit. Technically, as of this very moment, I have 3 in my possession. That one, that's the original one. This one, which is the one that's going in the car. And then a third one, which is that I bought, that was the replacement motor that had a crack in it, which we talked about here.
And about 2 weeks later, it ran again, and it was one of the best moments ever. I was so happy.
Thank you for fixing
No problem.
Oh my gosh, it was so good.
Good.
It was so good. It was everything I remembered and more. It drove so much better.
By the time it finally ran again, and I'm just checking our backups here, let's see, it was 11:15 Las Olas when it was delivered for that show. So just to make sure we're all on the same page here, 8/6/20. Okay, 8/6/20. That was when the motor went, I don't feel like running anymore, in Florida. And then it wasn't until 11/15/20 that the bitch ran again. Did it break again between there? I don't remember. That's bad. Did it break again?
No, because we were down there for about a week, and then we came back up. And then remember, it was at Claire's, and then you brought it up.
Oh, it was running for all of that. Incredible.
Yeah. And then
You're right. You're right. Terrible.
You know what?
Terrible vehicle. So in theory, at this point, I feel like, and everyone else hopes, that this is the end of the Murci saga, at least for right now. And it's funny, like just thinking back to it now, something Randy said from the very get-go.
Here we go. The beginning of the never-ending saga of the Yellow Murci.
Never ending.
Yeah. You want to talk about just like words of fate there.
Told him if he bought a silver one, it wouldn't have such problems, but it's yellow.
We were hoping this was the end of the Murci saga. We go down here to the backups of 11/24/20. It was the day that you and I, Blake, we shot the car. It arrived in South Carolina for my court date.
That was awesome, dude.
We drove it to see Ed Bolian over at VinWiki HQ to tell some VinWiki stories, which was a lot of fun. And it made it there. That was the longest it ever went without braking. It drove, I think it was 450 miles.
Just about.
I had it shipped back from Atlanta up to Maryland, and this was at the end of the year, and everyone had gone from Florida back home to Maryland to see family and just enjoy the holidays. And the Murci did too. Murci was fine, drove fine, had no issues at all. And did it break between? Oh yeah, no, it did break. Yeah. Yeah, it did. How many times did it break though? Was it once or twice? I think.
I wonder why that's open. Ugh. Pile of junk.
There is a coolant line that runs very, very close to the manifolds on the car. It gets very hot. And due to old age, cracking and whatnot, if this hose bursts, which can happen or deteriorates, not only will it blow coolant all over the manifold and whatnot and smoke and look like the car's on fire, but all of a sudden the car doesn't have coolant in it anymore. It was a very quick fix. Car went on a tow truck, as per usual, by Potomac Towing, God bless him. And they took the car, took it to Loudoun County. Within the next day, car was fixed, ready to go. Let me tell you, I'm really tired of doing that Loudoun County to my house drive. Like, I don't need GPS for it anymore, Blake. I'll tell you, I really don't. I've done it so many times.
Reese and then street speed, right? Or did
It was street speed. Again, it was the STO video. That was on the way to street. There is a curse.
No, wait.
Yeah.
STO was before his toy drive?
It didn't break on the toy drive, though. Oh, I completely forgot it broke on that.
That was the biggest one!
Jeez, I forgot about that. The moment it happened, Blake, I tell you, I knew exactly what happened. The moment it happened, like I got so many people who have watched my videos for a long time, and if you have, I apologize. But if you have seen me like back in the day when I had like my C5 Corvette, like I had wheel hop, like differential blowing flashbacks when I did that in my C5 way back when.
Oh, dude, you're leaking something. You're leaking something.
If I frame this just right, Julian, you can't tell it's on a truck. It looks like it's driving. Just gotta frame it just right. Frame it just right, and then it looks like it's driving down the road.
And a week later, and then about $4,000 later, I bought a new diff. I had it overnighted, and Greg installed it very quickly. And then next week it was ready for the next rally. And it didn't break on that one, surprisingly.
Oh my god, this is crazy. I can't link up with these guys often because I'll be in jail. I can't do that.
Everything has been running on the car fine since. That was mid-December when that happened. So the car has now made it about a month and a half without breaking at all, needing to go to Loudoun County Exotics. With all that being said, now it's time we actually give the number. What was it all told? Well, I added up all the service records and the final number came out to just a click over $65,000 in the first year. Now, if you add in towing and, you know, just expenses of shipping the car back and forth, it's easily over 70 grand. So the car I bought, okay, was $128,000. And that was, keep in mind, this was a 8-owner Murcielago. You add that together, I mean, this is now a $200,000 car that is, I mean, I paid $200,000 for a car that was $128,000. You know, it's not good. It's really bad, actually. So in the first year of ownership, I've spent effectively about $70,000 maintaining this car. Not good at all. Now, the thing is with this car, like, it doesn't make me money, it doesn't make Savage Garage money. For Randy, it's the SVJ. I know he will never sell that car because not only has it been with him through thick and thin in the very beginning of this channel, but it has been the single most unbelievably reliable vehicle I have ever seen. That car should not be running anymore, Blake. I swear to God, it should have had all 4 wheels self-eject themselves off one launch control and the engine goes one way and the trans goes another. I don't know how that thing has been as reliable as it has. Now, my Murci, on the other hand, it seems like every time I hit the gas, the thing explodes. But the thing is, I love it. The Murcielago for me is very special. It means a lot to me. There has never been a vehicle that has made me feel as good as that Murcielago has when it's running. There are some friends I've met along the way with my Murcielago that have had an Aventador as well, and they sold the Aventador to keep driving the Murcielago. And they didn't sell it because they needed the money to maintain the Murcielago, it was just because that was the one they enjoyed driving the most. Nothing replaces the feeling and the sound and everything else that a Murci possesses. There is nothing like a Murci. And for that reason alone, I will keep it until the day I die. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys can learn something from this. I hope you found it entertaining. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, like the video, post notifications, all that garbage, because if you don't, you might not see the next video from Savage Garage. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Bumblebee that's just hovering around in the dark.
Let's get right beside him.
Let's take